Welcome to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. Let's talk about that post-credits scene in Black Widow. Black Widow is finally out in theaters after a very long wait.
It's about time.
And one of the highlights of the movie was Yelena Belova. But that post-credits scene raises some questions about Yelena's future in the MCU. Why is she working with Valentina Allegra de Fontaine? And why is Val targeting Hawkeye? Valentina is clearly up to something no good, and all signs point to the Thunderbolts, a team of government heroes that will clash with the Avengers in the coming years. So let's talk about how the Black Widow post-credits scene sets up the Thunderbolts.
Why do you always do that thing?
Do what?
This thing that you do when you whip your hair when you're fighting with the arm and the hair, and you do like a fighting pose.
Florence Pugh is poised to have a huge role in the MCU. She was one of my favorite parts of the movie. With Natasha's death in Avengers Endgame, Yelena might take on the mantle of her sister and become the new Black Widow. But first, she's going to battle Hawkeye in his Disney Plus show.
I knew I should have stretched.
In the post-credit scene for Black Widow, we see Yelena visiting Natasha's grave. While Yelena mourns her sister, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine makes her grand entrance in the most Julia Louis-Dreyfus way possible.
Actually, it's Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. I know it's hard, but I don't like to repeat myself, so you can just call me Val.
Anyway, at some point after the events of Black Widow, Yelena started working for Val, and Yelena's next mission is to go after Hawkeye. It's clear that Valentina is manipulating Yelena into believing that Clint Barton is responsible for Natasha's death. Nat did tell Yelena about her friendship with Clint and that he helped her defect to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agent Barton was sent to kill me. He made a different call.
But maybe she never found out exactly how Natasha died. And let's not forget Clint's murder spree. He pretty much went full Punisher, killing criminals around the world, losing all hope after his family got dusted.
Oh, boo-hoo-hoo, my wife and child are dead.
So Clint's time as Ronin might be the reason why Yelena believes Valentina. And the consequences of Clint's actions must be addressed in his Disney Plus show. The Hawkeye show is set to premiere later this year, and it will focus on Clint training Kate Bishop and eventually passing the Hawkeye mantle onto her. Now, we've known for a while that Florence Pugh would make an appearance in the show, but now it's clear what her role is going to be.
Revenge!
It was nice getting some catharsis for Natasha's death, since she didn't even get a memorial in Endgame. It really makes you realize that tomorrow is not a promise, even for a super spy. This moment of reflection got me thinking about my own future, and you should too. If you have a family that relies on your income, then you really need life insurance. You never know when something might happen, like you're forced to trade your soul for a space rock to save your best bud's kids. I know life insurance seems weird and complicated, but that's why I recommend Policy Genius, the sponsor of this week's video. It's very easy to use. Head over to policygenius.com/screencrush to get started. In just a few minutes, you can work out how much coverage you need and compare personalized quotes to get your best price. Policy Genius is not an insurance company. It's their job to work with different companies to find the best rates for you. They handle all the paperwork and applications for free. You could save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. Eligible applicants can get covered in as little as a week. Remember what Jack Napier said.
Think about the future.
So don't put this off till you're older, because life insurance is way cheaper when you're still young. Get a good rate now and lock it in for decades. Head to policygenius.com/screencrush to get started right now.
Let's do it!
But the real question is, why is Valentina targeting Hawkeye? Well, Val might be assembling the MCU's version of the Thunderbolts. Now, we did recently make a video about the Thunderbolts, suggesting that Zemo is the one who will assemble the team in the MCU. And based on Black Widow, that might still happen. Back in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Valentina recruited John Walker, giving him a new suit.
It's the same, but black.
And rebranding him as U.S. Agent. Now, at the time, Walker was on the outs with the government after going crazy and killing a guy in cold blood. Val approached Walker in the most opportune time, when he was at his lowest point. He lost faith in the government and the system, so his fractured mental state allowed Val to play her mind games on him.
It has made you very, very valuable to certain people.
After all, a guy like Walker needs a cause to follow, and she swooped right in, giving him validation and a purpose.
You did the right thing. Nobody in there is mad at you about that. I mean, you would have been doing him a favor if you'd taken out the whole lot.
And perhaps she used the same tactics on Yelena, finding her at her lowest point after Natasha's death and manipulating her into becoming a mercenary. When John becomes the U.S. agent, Valentina says,
"Things are about to get weird. So when they do,
We're not gonna need a Captain America.
And that sounds pretty ominous. Yelena and John don't know it, but it seems like Val recruited them both into the Thunderbolts. Alright, so I keep saying that word, Thunderbolts. Who are the Thunderbolts? Let's briefly recap the team's origin in the comics. There were multiple versions of the team. The first version was formed by Baron Zemo. He recruited supervillains and they all pretended to be superheroes. Years later, Norman Osborn assembled a new version of the team. After the events of the comic book Civil War, Osborn was given full authority by the US government, and the Thunderbolts were tasked with hunting down and arresting any superpowered people who went against the Superhuman Registration Act. Later, Osborn was given even more power and authority, becoming the head of Hammer, kind of a more offensive version of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that allowed him to transform the Thunderbolts into the Dark Avengers, with Norman Osborn himself becoming the Iron Patriot.
I am Iron Patriot.
Listen, War Machine was a little too aggressive, all right? This sends a better message.
Now look, due to Sony owning the rights to Norman Osborn, it's unlikely we'll see him in the MCU, at least not in the same capacity as the comics.
Well, that sucks.
But what is likely is that the MCU's Thunderbolts will work for the government, and they will hunt down heroes. Or at least, they'll claim that they're a check on the hero's power. And Valentina will be the one who recruits the Thunderbolts, sort of like an evil Nick Fury.
I want to build a team of some very bad people who I think can do some good.
In the comics, Valentina was a triple agent, working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, while in fact being a sleeper agent for Leviathan, a Soviet terrorist organization. Leviathan appeared in Agent Carter, so we have a connection there. But the MCU version of Valentina will likely be more like Valerie Cooper, who also goes by Val.
So you can just call me Val, but don't call me Val, just keep it in your head.
She plays a key role in the United States government, tasked to deal with the rising threat of super beings. And that seems to be the case for Valentina in the MCU, working for the government and assembling the Thunderbolts to deal with the Avengers and other heroes. See, powerful people like Ross don't like to feel weak, and the existence of superheroes threatens some of the most powerful governments on Earth. Now, that's the main reason why the Sokovia Accords were created, and I guess technically they're still in place, but it kind of seems like everyone just sort of let it go with the Avengers like saving the universe and everything.
The world's on fire, and you think all's forgiven?
I'm not looking for forgiveness, and I'm way past asking permission.
But the Sokovia Accords came in response to the events of Phases 1 and 2. Now think about all the stuff that's happened since Civil War. Thanos, 50% of all life gets dusted. The blip was just undone, but the impact will be felt forever. The universe almost got destroyed. Alien invasions seem to happen every week now. Then, Wanda lost control and changed reality for an entire town. The Flag Smashers infiltrated and attacked the GRC. Wakanda has been revealed to be the most powerful nation on Earth, and the Asgardians have turned Tonsberg into New Asgard. Super beings and masked vigilantes are everywhere, and no one is policing them. Not to mention that it's unclear if the Avengers are even still a team, or if they all went their separate ways after Endgame. For the government, things are getting out of control, and if someone doesn't take hold of the situation, a catastrophe is bound to happen.
The world's filling up with people who can't be matched. They can't be controlled.
Sooner or later, a new Thanos will attack Earth, or something even worse. Not to mention that the majority of superheroes have godlike powers or super advanced tech that would give anyone nightmares. And one of those nightmares came true when Wanda took over Westview. This is why it only makes sense for the government to use Valentina's skills to form their own team of superheroes, the Thunderbolts, with Yelena and US Agent being their first recruits. And their objective is clear: go after other heroes and arrest or eliminate them. And Hawkeye seems to be an obvious first target. He has no superpowers, so it's going to be easier to arrest him than, say, Wanda or the Hulk.
Listen, I've got powers too, and they're pretty sweet.
And after all, there's precedent in arresting Clint. He did kill a bunch of people in cold blood. Sure, he was in a dark place at the time, but with some clever manipulation, it's not going to be difficult to spin the story and turn Hawkeye into a crazed killer. Which is sort of what Val is doing already by setting Yelena after him. This is exactly what Zemo did with Bucky, framing him for the UN bombing, though Bucky was innocent while Clint did kill all those people. But this might mean that we would get to see the best dancer in the universe again. While Zemo is on the raft, there's a chance that Valentina will also recruit him. He was able to do what no one else could, not even Thanos. He hit the Avengers where it hurt the most. He broke them, caused them to disassemble.
An empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one which crumbles from within, that's dead.
A man like Zemo would be an asset for the Thunderbolts, and he has the ultimate reason to hate the Avengers since he blames them for the death of his family. So Zemo could still lead the Thunderbolts, using his fake superhero name, Citizen V, or even becoming a new version of the Iron Patriot. Maybe the Sokovian Patriot? Iron Sokovian?
Okay, what?
So the government's plan is most likely to use Clint and Wanda as proof the Avengers are out of control and the Earth's mightiest heroes can't be trusted anymore, and they need to come under government's reign. Once the public turns on the Avengers, it'll be much easier to go after them and arrest them. Till then, Val can use Yelena and others to work from the shadows to set things in motion. Also, it wouldn't be a surprise if Thunderbolt Ross is involved somehow. After all, he was very eager to enforce the Sokovia Accords. And it's only a matter of time till he becomes the Red Hulk.
You can either surrender peacefully, or you can resist. Please, resist.
And he was the leader of the Thunderbolts for a time in the comics. The MCU's Thunderbolts team could even take its nickname from him, Thunderbolt Ross. Other members of the Thunderbolts could join the team throughout the next few MCU movies and shows, like Abomination, who's going to make his return in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Phase 4 could culminate with the Earth-based heroes clashing with the Thunderbolts. Maybe that's going to be the big event where all the Phase 4 shows are building toward. Also, it would be best if the Avengers who battle the Thunderbolts will consist of heroes like Captain America, Bucky, Hawkeye, War Machine, and other less powerful heroes. Space heroes like Thor, Captain Marvel, the Guardians, they should have their own adventures separate from Earth. The same goes for Doctor Strange, Wanda, and the others, who will deal with the magical and multiverse stuff. This way, the MCU can focus more on its individual teams.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
As far as Yelena goes, I think she'll become a sort of double agent. She'll join the Thunderbolts at first, but after learning Clint didn't kill Natasha and that she's being manipulated by Valentina, she will turn on the Thunderbolts, with her possibly being the key to defeating this team of supervillains. After the Avengers and the Thunderbolts clash, it's possible that the Thunderbolts will be reformed, becoming a type of Black Ops superhero team like the Secret Avengers. I can see Bucky teaming up with Yelena to form this team, working from the shadows to do things the Avengers can't do in the light. Sort of like the Suicide Squad.
Ratatouille, what do you got?
Bird.
Now it. Stay off the comm.
Regardless of how all this plays out, I hope the MCU doesn't shy away from dealing with all the consequences and implications of the Avengers' mistakes. So, what Hawkeye did cannot just be swept away and forgotten. The MCU excels when it deals with deeper themes, diving into the gray area. And so hopefully the clash between the Avengers and the Thunderbolts won't just be about punching and killing, but also about ideology, the social implications, and the consequences of everything that's happened since Civil War. So that's my thoughts on the Black Widow post-credit scene. Who do you think should join the Thunderbolts? What did you think about Black Widow? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.